Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. My name is Dr. Mahipal Singh Rathod and in this video I will be discussing the Pathalgadi movement with you. In the past few months, the tribals of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha have demanded self-rule in their villages. They are stopping the government officials and any other outsider from entering their villages. And they say that this demand is based on the constitution, on the fine reading of the constitution. Are they correct or is it an anti-national movement? I am going to discuss all the issues regarding this movement with you in detail in this lecture. What exactly is Pathalgadi? Pathalgadi is the erecting of stones, a patthar. So this is the stone, a green colored painted stone that has been erected outside of villages, and more than 300 villages in Jharkhand have erected these stones or these plaques outside there, just outside the village, which clearly mention that no outsider can enter in our village without permission. And what is the basis of this? The constitution. So they have mentioned some articles of the constitution here that I am going to discuss, and they have also mentioned the PESA Act. So they have based all their rules and regulations on the constitution itself. So this is Pathalgadi, the erecting of stones in green color, and they are protecting their sovereignty, the right to stop the outsiders from entering in their villages using their traditional weapons of bow and arrow. Here you can see a group of men standing outside the village road and stopping any outsider from coming in. So if you want to enter, take our permission. Without our permission, you cannot enter the village. That is what the tribals are saying. So this is the erection of giant plaques, that is Pathalgadi, declaring the Gram Sabha as the only sovereign authority, banning outsiders from their villages, from their area. And these outsiders are mainly the government servants, the government officials. In the Munda tribal custom, remember the Mundas are the most populous tribal group in Jharkhand. In the Munda tribal custom, placement of a huge stone marks the death of a person. And the Pathalgadi movement has drawn on this tradition of honoring the community's ancestors. That is why they have built these stone plaques. The leaders of the movement decided to carve the key provisions of the PESA as well as some other articles of the constitution as messages on huge stones in order to enlighten Adivasi people about this law, which empowered a village as an administrative unit. Again, here you can see a village which has a stone carved out, and this is protected by some bamboo sticks. And again, here you can see some young men and boys standing with their bows and arrows. It is more of a symbolic gesture than anything else, but yes, these can be threatening. These weapons can threaten you. So this is what is happening since the past few months, and it has garnered very less media attention. I'm very surprised that very few media houses have covered it. They covered this topic, especially the visual media, the news channels. They have hardly covered this topic. So I'm going to discuss about this. Before going further, I want to tell you that if you want to know about any updates on my videos or need the PDF of my lectures, or you want to follow any important articles for competitive exams, you can follow my Facebook page, facebook.com/Mahipal Singh Rathod. You can like or follow it. StudyIQ has a variety of pendrive courses available which allow you to sit and prepare from your home. You do not need to migrate to any other city for your competitive exams preparation. So we have courses for all kinds of exams like SSC, Bank, RBI, UPSC optional courses, state PCS courses, and even defense examinations. To know more, visit our website or call these numbers. So this is a tribal citizen of India in Jharkhand. He is holding a copy of the Indian Constitution to the journalists who have arrived to discuss this issue or cover this issue. So these tribals are saying that you have read the Constitution. All you well-read people, you have your degrees, but you have not read the Constitution in its fine print. We have done that, and that is why we have started the Pathalgadi movement. So are they right? Let us have a look. See, Article 13, which is the beginning of the fundamental rights. Now, Article 13 says that when the Constitution of India was adopted, that is 26 January 1950, before the commencement of the Constitution, all the laws in force in India, this line is very important, all the laws in force in India before the commencement of Constitution, if they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part means fundamental rights. If they are inconsistent with the fundamental rights, then they shall be void. So if any law is not agreeable to the fundamental rights, it is violating the fundamental rights of the citizens of India, then that law will be void. But what is the definition of this law? What kind of laws are we talking about before 1950? So Article 13(3) has clearly mentioned that in this article, law includes any ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification. So these will be given by the earlier British government, but it also says that any custom or usage having in the territory of India the force of law. It means custom or usage means the traditional laws or the customs of the tribal people, they are also considered law according to the Article 13(3) of the Constitution. And laws in force includes law passed or made by a legislature, basically the Central Legislative Assembly of the British time period, or any other competent authority in territory of India before the commencement of this constitution. And the tribals say that the competent authority are our own tribal councils, our tribal elders, and our customs or our usage of laws are also considered law according to the Article 13. Okay, you cannot say that the tribal rules and customs were not law. Only the British Parliament or the British Central Legislative Assembly that we had, that was not the only law framing authority in the country. And if our laws or our customs are not violating the fundamental rights, then they are not illegal. They are not null and void. This is the argument given by the Adivasi people, that if the laws framed by the Gram Sabha are not violating the constitution, then they have the force of the constitution. So the constitution does not cancel them until and unless they are violating anyone's fundamental rights. So they say that our laws are not violating anyone else's fundamental rights or anyone's fundamental right, even in the villages. So we are not violating the constitution. Then come to Article 19. The reason why they have said that we can stop outsiders from coming in our villages or our hamlets. So Article 19, the right to freedom, clearly mentions in 1D that any citizen of India is allowed to move freely throughout the territory of India, and the Article 19(1)(e) says that every citizen is free to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. But consequently, there are some restrictions on these rights, and they are also mentioned in Article 19 itself. So 19(5) says that the right to freely move, reside and settle, basically these two rights are restricted by existing laws in the interest of the scheduled tribes. So the government can form new laws, or the existing laws can also be enforced if they are to protect the interest of the scheduled tribes. So the tribals say that to protect our customs, our way of life, we are using this 19(5) to stop outsiders from coming in and settling in our villages or even buying up land. So they are right. Like if you go by the fine print of the constitution, then yes, they may be right. Okay, because 19(5) clearly empowers the governments or to stop everyone moving into tribal areas. And even in many places of Arunachal, Manipur, Mizoram, you need an inner line permit. You need an ILP to go visit the territories which are scheduled tribal areas. Then we come to Article 244, which deals with the administration of scheduled areas and tribal areas. See, our constitution has provided for special provisions in the 5th and 6th schedule. 5th schedule deals with the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes in any state, and Schedule 6 deals with the administration of scheduled areas in only these 4 states: Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. You can remember them like this: AMMT. So these were the original 4 states when the constitution was adopted. They were mainly tribal. They had a large tribal population. That is why they were given, their administration is given separately in Schedule 6. And other states, any other state like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, which has a small tribal population, not as much as Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, they will be governed according to 5th schedule. And in all these states, there have to be tribes advisory councils formed, and any law that the government forms, that the legislative assembly will form any law, it will consult this tribal advisory council. Only then those laws of the state will be applicable to the tribal areas. So as of 2018, 10 states in India have scheduled areas: Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Himachal, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha and Rajasthan. All these states have a sizable tribal population, and the governor is in charge for taking care of all these tribal areas. The governor has to give a report annually to the president about the development and the progress of these tribal regions, and the governor has the power to send request to the president that notify any new tribal area. So ultimately the notifying authority is president, but the request will be sent via the governor. Now, under the 5th schedule, governor may direct that a law should not apply to a scheduled area. Let's say a new law is formed in Madhya Pradesh, but it will not apply to the tribal areas like Chhindwara, etc. until and unless the governor specifies so. He or she can direct that a law shall apply to a scheduled area. So they have to make some amendments. They have to take in confidence the tribes advisory council. They have to meet with the tribes advisory council and say that, okay, this law will be problematic in implementation in the tribal area. So we will make some few amendments or few changes, and then we will apply it to the scheduled area. That is the responsibility of the governor. In most states, all laws enacted are automatically assumed to apply across the state, and there is no specific direction to apply them to the scheduled areas. So although these provisions are there, but mostly in the past 20 years after the passage of PESA, in the past 22 years, we have seen that the state governments are not taking that much interest in having some special amendments for the tribal areas. They usually think that, okay, if any law has been passed, it automatically applies to the entire state. In either case, the governor must consult the tribe's advisory council. Whether the law applies or it does not apply, in both the cases, the governor must consult the tribe's advisory council. But in the past 22 years, we have seen that these advisory councils rarely meet, and the governors never submit annual reports about the progress of these tribal areas to the president as they are required to do. So the tribal people have said that it is a breach of trust, it's a breach of constitution, that the governors are not doing their duty, the state governments are not doing their duty to look after our welfare, to present those reports, to consult with us. So why should we now help the state government? Why should we let the people of the state government come into our villages? Then there is the issue of PESA. PESA is Panchayat's Extension to Scheduled Areas Act of 1996. When was the Panchayati Raj Act applied to India? It was applied in 93. It was passed in 92, applied in 93. That was the Panchayati Raj Act. What number amendment was it? 73rd Amendment Act. Okay, the Panchayati Raj Act. But it was not applicable in 93 to all the scheduled areas. Basically, all the Schedule 5 and the Schedule 6 areas, they did not have panchayats because they had some special constitutional protection. So the Panchayat Act was amended. It was amended specifically for the tribal areas, and then it was extended to all these scheduled areas, that is the tribal areas, in 96, 3 years later. So these are the basic provisions of the PESA Act. Village shall ordinarily consist of a habitation comprising of a community and managing its affairs in accordance with traditions and customs. So the tribal villages can manage their own affairs according to the traditions and customs. They are given this free hand that you can manage according to your traditions and customs. Okay. Gram Sabha consists of persons whose names are included in the electoral rolls for the Panchayat. Every Gram Sabha shall be competent to safeguard and preserve the traditions and customs of the people, their cultural identity, community resources, and the customary mode of dispute resolution. So they are competent enough to safeguard and preserve their traditions and customs. That is a special power to the tribal panchayats, not the panchayats of other areas of India. Then state legislation to be in conformity with customary law. What is customary law? It is the law that is formed according to the old customs. So whatever old customs are there, any new law is framed by the state legislative assemblies, it should be in conformity. It should not be against the customary laws of the tribals. Also, the social and religious practices have to be taken into account, and customary modes of dispute resolution have to be honored. Gram Sabha shall approve plans, programs and projects before their implementation. Very important. You can't just bring in a new plan or a new program or a new abhiyan of the government and directly implement it in the tribal villages. The Gram Sabha has to approve it. Power to prevent land alienation. Land cannot be taken away for any development purposes without the okay of Gram Sabha. And they also have the power to restore illegally alienated land. So let's say 30 years ago some land was taken away from the villages, people were uprooted. Now the Gram Sabha has the power to take back their land and give it to the original inhabitants. Gram Sabha should have control over local institutions and functionaries. What do you mean by local institutions? Like the PHC, the primary school, the health centers. All these should be under the control of Gram Sabha, and the doctors and the teachers who are working there should be under the supervision of Gram Sabha. And finally, most importantly, the right to be consulted before land acquisition. Any new project the government is trying to bring, they should consult the Gram Sabha or the Panchayat under the PESA Act. This is very important, and this was one of the triggers for the Pathalgadi movement. I'll tell you why. See, in last year, the BJP-led government of Jharkhand, the chief minister is Raghubar Das. He tried to amend two very old legislations, the Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act 1908 and Santhal Pargana Tenancy Act 1949. Why? Because the government was trying to build land banks. What is a land bank? It is like a bank but for land, not for money. So they will coalesce a lot of land together so that it can be given away to companies or anyone who is trying to set up a new business who are not Adivasis. See, in Jharkhand there is a restriction that tribal lands cannot be bought by other people, non-tribals. Only tribal people can buy tribal land, or they can buy and sell. So to give the companies an opportunity, the government was taking over the land and they were giving it to these private corporations or companies. So they were trying to get a lot of land together, and for that they wanted to amend these old land acts, and these land acts clearly mentioned that only tribals have control over their land, the Chota Nagpur Tenancy and the Santhal Pargana Tenancy Act. Now these two age-old legislations which are made by the British, because even the British recognize that yes, the tribal land has to be kept with the tribal people. So the tribals did not take very kindly to this. They were saying that the government is taking away our land, and the PESA clearly mentions, the PESA Act says that we have to be consulted, but they were not consulted. When the people protested, then the police fired upon them, and there were a few deaths also. So that led to anger in the tribal people, and they started the Pathalgadi movement. So this was the original trigger for the Pathalgadi movement. Although I must tell you that the governor of Jharkhand, I think Draupadi Murmu, she rejected the amendments to these. So the state assembly had passed these amendments, but the governor rejected because of the large scale opposition from the tribals. So this land bank scheme was never took place, but still the anger was there, and this led to the Pathalgadi movement. But we have to think of it in a larger context. The major issue here is not just the amendment of those acts. It's a trigger. It is what started the movement. But the major cause simmering since the past 70 years since independence is development. Have we as a state failed to develop the tribal areas? Yes, we have, to a large extent. Are the facilities that are available in the tribal areas equal to that of any other village in, let's say, Maharashtra or Goa or Gujarat? No. There is a large scale difference. The reasons behind this are varied. Few of them are the top-down approach of the government. The money comes from Delhi, then it goes to the state government, then it goes to the block level panchayats or the district level, then it will go to the panchayats. So by the time the money comes there, a very less money is left. As Rajiv Gandhi famously said that 1 rupee travels from Delhi and only 10 paisa reaches the village. So a lot of the money is gone in between. So this top-down approach where schemes are framed at the capital level and then those schemes are adopted here, it is not working in the tribal areas. Many reasons are there, historical, geographical, many reasons are there for this, but the schemes are not working as intended. Then there is also the issue of language. The Munda people speak a different language, it's called Mundari, and the another local dialects, they are not being taught to the people. They are taught in Hindi and English medium. Now these tribals are saying that our language is being lost, and if we lose our language, because if we don't learn Hindi and English, we don't get jobs. So we have to learn Hindi and English. But what about our culture? If we learn these languages, our culture, our customs, our way of life will be gone. So now the Pathalgadi movement has also resulted in the formation of a school board. They are going to form their own school education board. They will build their own schools. So this is also a development coming from the Pathalgadi movement. So these are the major issues. Mainly it is the development issue which is the cause behind this. And you should always write and you should always think of it in terms of development. What has been the response of government? The government has said that this entire movement is anti-national. There are secessionist forces behind this who want to break up the country. They want to break up the state. Naxals are behind it. Although the tribal people say that the Naxals don't believe in constitution at all. And we on the other hand are laying down the foundation of our movement on the constitution. So we and our movement and Naxals movement is completely different. They don't believe in constitution at all, and we believe in constitution. But still the government is saying it has been fanned by the Naxals because they will get a safe haven to hide in the villages. If the government officers and police cannot enter the villages, then they get a safe haven to hide in. Another reason given by the government is opium cultivation. They say that the tribals are cultivating opium, which is illegal. You cannot cultivate opium without government license in India. If they are cultivating opium and it is a very lucrative trade, it sells for a high price, and they want to protect their opium cultivation. So that is why this Pathalgadi is just a front so that they can cultivate opium in peace without any government or police interference. So these are the reasons given by the state government of Jharkhand. Many ministers of Jharkhand cabinet are making propaganda videos. They are saying that this movement is anti-national, there will be dire consequences. So there is a kind of a small threat from the ministers as well. And they are saying it is based on the wrong interpretation of the constitution. Government is saying that the leaders of this movement are misinterpreting the constitution and they are leading the tribals down a wrong path. In March 2018, the police arrested Vijay Kujur. He was a leader of Adivasi Mahasabha and he was also a manager in the Shipping Corporation of India. In May, another leader of this movement, Harman Kindo, he is an ex-IAS officer, and Joseph Tigga, who was working with ONGC earlier, they were also arrested. So all the leaders of this movement have been arrested. But you see, all these leaders are very well educated. They come from an educated class among the tribals. They are not illiterate people who don't know the constitution. Obviously, do you think that an IAS officer would not have read the constitution? Yes, he would have. So it is wrong to say that there are anti-national forces behind this. This is my personal opinion. It is wrong on the part of the government to say that this is anti-national movement. Now, what do you think? What is your response to this entire movement? Tell me in the comment section. Do you think that the tribals are correct in this movement? I think they want to give out a message. They want to give a powerful message that if you don't develop, if you don't work for us, the government does not work for us, then we will not let the government enter in our home. I think that is the message coming out. What do you think? Is it actually an anti-national movement according to you? Tell me in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching this. Have a great day.